minimum payment, and the minimum payment in many cases won't even cover, if it's 20+% APR, then they're not even covering the increase that's happening in most cases. So it's really scary. You think of home ownership, 38.6 by the age of 30, 51.6, 35. Think about this. So we're at the lowest right now, but when you look at the vector community, the vector community is, a lot of people have their own home, and probably a lot of you have your own home. And I hope that you don't take that for granted as well. You guys are sitting in a home right now. I believe Kathy saw her, maybe a home that she rented, I don't know. But the reality is, like, we've got it good. Vector offers a great opportunity. I was a DM for 3 years, and I got promoted. And inside those 3 years, I saved a lot of money. Before I got promoted to DVM, inside of 3 years, I saved somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 in income, and I was on a trajectory to save a lot more in the years to come as I was learning more and getting better at the business. But what I'd like to talk to you a little bit about today, really, to me, what has been the biggest impact for me are the two most important things that most people don't know about. And so I said earlier, what's most important is that you just start. It doesn't matter how much money you start saving or investing. What matters is that you do a certain number that you're comfortable with, and you do it with frequency. You do it every paycheck. It's a form of investment where your money goes to every month. So first thing I want to talk about is average rate of return versus an actual rate of return. Okay, very, very important that you learn this difference, because most people blur this all as the same thing or don't realize there's a difference here. And then the next thing I'm going to talk about is the power of tax-free growth. All right, and putting your money in a place where it can grow tax-free and you don't have that drag of tax every single year. So we'll talk about both of those, but these are your two biggest financial game changers in my opinion. So let's start, with average rate of return versus actual rate of return. And I'm just going to use some real simple examples. All right, year one. Let's say that you have a 50% return on your money in year one. Okay, is everyone all fired up with a 50% return?
Yeah.
I'm fired up. Year two, you lose all 50%. But don't worry. Year three, you make it back. And then year four, you lose it again. So what is the average rate of return? Who knows?
0.
I hear 0.
Yeah.
Only one person.
0. 0.
Okay. You are correct. This was not a trick question. The 4-year average. Okay? You guys were probably thinking some crazy number was going to come up here. 0%. Now, let's have some fun with this. Let's say that the money you're investing is $100,000, because I want to show you the difference between an average rate of return and an actual rate of return. So, actual rate of return here. In year one, when you get a 50% return, your 100,000 becomes 150. In year two, you lose half of it. So you're actually down to 75,000. So you're below your original investment. Year three, it increases by 50. So you're up to 112,500. And then year four, you lose it. So you're down to 56,000. What I want you to understand is the real rate of return is different than the average rate of return. The real rate of return is negative 43.75%. So the biggest scam in the world is people talking about average rate of return, because average rate of return has nothing to do with how much money you're actually making. The only thing I care about when it comes to returns is how much money am I making. I hope that this one distinction can open up your eyes in the future for evaluating investments. And anytime you get, and by the way, everyone in the financial industry is programmed to tell you average rate of return, right? You guys have all heard this. Over the life of investing money, your money will average a 10% rate of return, right? Everyone's heard that, or 8% is now the new thing that people are saying. But what I want you to understand is even if your money is averaging an 8 or a 10% return, you're actually probably earning only at about a 2% return. And maybe even less. You could actually be losing money depending on when the negative amount hits. Does everyone follow that?
Yeah.
This to me is like building block number one, actual versus average. So get out of the world of average. Financial planners are programmed and conditioned and taught to teach you about average rate of return, so that way when they quote their numbers, they can quote numbers that sound good, like, ooh, you made 8% on average this year, versus you actually only made $30 on your $50,000 you have invested. All right, so that's point number one. Point number two is the advantage of tax-free growth. So to me, when you look at and analyze everything, the number one drag on your financial well-being is going to be taxes. Okay? That's the number one erosion of money. Taxes erode your money more than inflation does, even though inflation certainly does. Taxes, that is what strips you of your wealth. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't pay our taxes. There's a lot of good things that happens from paying taxes, and ways that we can help out people that are less fortunate than us, and ways that we can contribute to our government and our local municipalities, so that we can have police and fire departments and all these different things that we get. So I'm a huge proponent of paying taxes, but I'm also a huge proponent of paying the minimum amount possible, right? I want to be legal, but I don't want to overpay, right? So let's talk about two different types of growth, because there are only two types of growth that you are going to experience, okay? There is tax-free and there's taxed. That's the only type of growth that exists. You may hear tax-deferred. That is still taxed. It's just being pushed off to a later period of time. So even your, whatever your investment is, where you're like, ooh, I get to push that off. My SEP allows me to, and by the way, I'm not bad mouthing a SEP. I've got money in a SEP, but your SEP is a tax deferred vehicle, so you don't pay taxes today, and you can offset your income today. You're going to see in a second why I don't like it as much. All right, so tax free versus tax. So I want to use an example where I double $1 every single year, and I'm going to do that in a tax-free vehicle so you can see how it works. And it's pretty simple, and then I'm going to do it in a taxed vehicle. All right, so I want you to understand how both of them work. Doubling $1 is probably not going to happen. You're probably not going to double your money every single year. But what I'm trying to do is fast forward a timetable. So I'm going to give you a 20-year example that more realistically is, if I drew this out based on a regular type of return, it'd be like a 60-year return. But let's just do it quickly so you can see the power of compounding. So $1 doubled every year. So what is it in year two?
$4.
Yeah, so it's $2 in year one. It's $4 in year two. Yeah, these aren't trick questions.
Yeah.
Right? This is all easy. What is it in year 10?
1,024.
Nice. This is actually pretty easy. Year 15, we're at 32 G's. Year 16, can anyone do the math? This is a tough one
6
to do in your head.
5.
6, 3, 5.
It equals 20 years. It equals.
There you go.
Oh, bro.
17 years, 18 years, but what you got to see is here's where the compounding really starts to happen in the later years. I mean, year 20, what's happening? That $1 is turning into $1 million. Okay, so let's look over here on capital gains that are taxed at about 33%. And obviously that's a little extreme, except that, depending on who's in office, if Hillary had gotten elected, there's a chance that capital gains would have gotten to about this much. But if you compound if you have short-term capital gains, it's going to be whatever your ordinary income is. Long-term capital gains can be somewhere between 15 and 20%. Your blended rate may be, you're probably going to get like 20 to 25%, depending on your income, your tax bracket, and all that. But let's have some fun with it. So in year 1, it's $1.67. By the way, does anyone have any guess where it is in year 20?
500. 400 grand.
500. So half of it.
400.
400. Okay.
And this is how much tax you're paying on it?
I'm sorry, Kathy. Say it again.
What is the 3%? What you're paying?
Yeah, what you're paying in taxes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're paying the capital gains on your taxes, because what happens in a taxed vehicle, a taxed environment, is you get taxed every single year. So any other guesses? I heard 500,000. I heard 400,000.
Well, how's 33% of $2, $1.67?
You're cutting out. I missed it. What is it?
Sorry, I'm far. How is $1.67 33% of $2?
So like the next one would be 279.
No. You're subtracting 33%, Kathy.
Just taking out.
Got it. This is what I'm
33% each
keeping.
time.
Got it.
Just want to make sure.
Well, you guys can come up with your own numbers. I'll just draw this out for you for a little bit. Does anyone think that this number is going to be higher than 500,000?
No.
Does anyone think this number is going to be lower than 300,000?
Yes.
Yes.
200,000?
No.
Yes, just because you're saying it.
100,000?
Let's see it.
Let's see it.
You're somewhere between like 100 and 400,000. Let's have some fun.
Want to hire you for a cut? So this is the amount you're paying. Wait, what?
What?
Total amount, grand total, $28,466.20.
Wait, but you're paying or keeping?
You're keeping.
You're saying that we're only keeping 28,000 of that?
If you double your.
Yes, of $1. If you did the same exact thing, basically what I want to show you is a comparison between a tax-free growth vehicle and a taxed vehicle. I used an exaggerated return so I could shrink it down to 20 years. I could use a normal return if we drew this out to like 60, 65, 70 years. But I wanted to show you what happens at the end of a long time frame when you pay tax on money today to put it into a vacuum that grows tax-free versus deferring your tax till later, or versus getting taxed on it today in most of your investments. Like if you're in the stock market or something like that, you're being taxed on your gain every single year. So I hope that this is eye-opening. The biggest thing that I have for you is, know number one, that your money's making money, right? Warren Buffett's number one rule is what? Does anyone know this?
No.
Warren Buffett's number one rule is don't lose money. Okay? And his number two rule is, rule number one, So those are his rules on money. Don't lose money. So most important thing is know what your money is earning, put money to work, know what it's earning, and put it in a place where it can grow the fastest. Those are the biggest thing. Your actual rate of return always trumps an average rate of return. So I don't care. Anytime someone ever says average, always say, what's the actual rate of return? What was the actual rate of return last year? What was the actual rate of return the last 10 years? I want actual numbers, not averages. Tax-free growth exponentially grows your wealth. All right? Anything a taxed vehicle, it's just not going to compound the same way. Most Americans don't understand these two basic concepts, so they end up, being the horrific statistics that I discussed at the beginning of this message. And as a nation, we subscribe to this idiotic follow the herd mentality that's crippling our finances. And the follow the herd mentality is all the advertisements that you see for commercials, all the stuff that you learn in school. Wall Street is one of those powerful let's call it economies in the world, right? So Wall Street has a certain education that they want. They want your money. Since Wall Street controls what is taught in schools, since Wall Street controls what people teach on television, like Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey, since Wall Street pays these people because they want your money, then what happens is everyone does the same thing. They're like, oh, I got to put my money in the stock market, or oh, I've got to, I got to do what this, whatever else is doing. I would suggest to you, whatever everyone else is doing, don't do it, because the majority of people aren't saving money. So number one, start saving money. But number two, where people are saving money is in the right place. 75% of the people that work at the Federal Reserve don't even invest in the stock market, just a heads up. But it's time to start thinking differently and acting differently, and start now. I emailed out a couple of documents to Kathy that she can forward on to you guys. But this is why startup is incredibly important to me. This is why withholdings are incredibly important to me. This is why, to me, it's important my people are withholding money. It's important that I'm withholding money. These become habits of a lifetime, right? So one of the things John Wooden says is, don't let what you can't do interfere with what you can do. And when I think about, everything that you can do, why are you going to be held back by what you can't do? I just, I don't understand that. So please don't get lost in the world of paralysis where there's no action taken because maybe you're not off to a good start. I emailed one document to Kathy that's called 10 Years with Vector and You'll Retire Independently Wealthy, and just basically a breakdown of how much you can invest per month. And real simple stuff like campaign one, invest $25 a month. Campaign two, $300 a month. Campaign three, $25 a month. You're going to set yourself on a path for about $500,000 saved, in 10 years. You do more, you can save more. You can see this one, if you did, $400 a month, $2,200 a month, and $400 a month, you're getting to a place where you're at about $4.2 million. So you guys can look at that a little more closely. And then another thing that I gave, that I emailed Kathy, it's just a spreadsheet that I would encourage you guys to use. And I would do this weekend while it's fresh in your mind. And it's really just, it's a financial plan. It's a 3-year plan. So a 3-year plan for 2017, 18, and 19. And it's really just writing out your, non-summer and summer, some of your expenses, and then some of your savings, and your super bonus income, and then even having some reasons why this matters. There's a little worksheet, and I believe this has some formulas built in and whatnot. So if you just enter stuff at the yellow, I think it automatically computes some things. But these are things that I work with my DMs on, so that they have information at their fingertips to be able to do good things with. So, the last thing I really just want to leave you with is that I really want you to consider doing more than whatever you're doing now. So if you're not saving any money regularly, why don't you start? And start small. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be $25 a month, like I pulled up in that last document. And if you are saving money every single month, why don't you up it? Why don't you see, how much more you can do? Can you increase it by 25 or 50 bucks a month? What's that really going to limit you today? Probably not much, but what could that do for you over the long haul? It could be the difference between, retiring at 40, 50, 60, 70, or never retiring because you don't have the financial means to be able to do so. Kathy, that's what I've got. I hope that was helpful for, your team. And more than anything, I just wanted it to be thought-provoking to get the ball rolling now with saving money because I started at a young age and, it really has benefited me because of that.
Nice, I appreciate it. Questions while we have them here from you guys?
Yeah, when you first started investing, where did you go? Did you I guess, how did you go about the process?
You're kind of cutting out. I think you said, where did I go to invest?
Yeah.
I've done a number of different things. I remember one time I was investing with a financial planner, and I didn't really have much knowledge of anything I'm telling you about today. And, because of that, I didn't really make a whole lot of money. I eventually took my money and I moved it. For a while, I worked with Adam Stock, and I had him invest my money. And I think Adam does a fine job if you're working with him. I think Adam's probably better than most financial planners out there. Adam doesn't really utilize, we don't see eye to eye on some of the foundational wealth building concepts because he's a little more traditional and conservative. I would call it traditional, based on a stock market approach. And so I remember just looking for someone that was kind of a specialist in investment vehicles that were tax-free growth vehicles. And, there are a handful of them out there. There aren't a ton, there's just a handful. One of which is municipal bonds, although you may want to be careful doing anything there because of what's going on with our debt. And if anything happens to the US dollar, being the world currency, we could be in for, a pretty big, the bonds could get really messed up. Our whole, bond economy. I'm a big proponent of life insurance type of vehicles as long as there's a cash value dividend component. I don't really subscribe much to term life, but I do like, Eric and I have talked a lot about this is, some of the dividend paying vehicles there, which I think are great. And those can be built to kind of be like a souped up Roth IRA. Everyone talks about how great a Roth is because you pay taxes now and then your money grows tax free. So I like that. You can build policies that are on steroids to that, which I think is great. There are a few other, tax free vehicles. There's certain things you can do with index funds and things like that. Most of the time, you're probably going to get some sort of a tax drag on there, but if you're going to have money exposed to the stock market, you're probably best suited, utilizing the index funds.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any clarity, questions? Get closer to the computer.
Is there a question that we should be asking?
That is a great question. I think the biggest question that you should ask is ask yourself, how much am I investing today? Do I need to be investing more? And when can I make that happen? That to me is the best question. It's a question to yourself, and it's an answer that you give yourself. It's nothing that you ever need to give me. If you want more info or content or documents or whatever, you're welcome to reach out to me. But that's not what I do for a living. I've got a lot of knowledge there, and I can direct you to people if you ever want it, but at the end of the day, most important thing that you do is you take action. And again, $25 goes a long way. $25 a month. I mean, we're talking about Starbucks weekly, right? You can do that. And if you're not doing that, I think you owe it to your future family to do it.
And I have a question actually for you that is something we were doing probably, I'm gonna put this lower, which was doing annual planning. So I know this doesn't have to do with this, but I think it kind of does. And we were just talking about how do you, when you plan the next year, what do you usually plan your annual office sales goals on? Just when you look at, okay, next year, 2017, how do you plan your years, or what have been different ways that you've planned your years, you know, through the past 2 decades? Whether it's been savings goals, certain levels you wanted to hit, like what are things you look at when planning your year? I think a great thing, and it kind of ties together because you're like, when can I start investing? A big part of that is making sure we're obviously, you know, being intentional about creating the amount of income we want to invest into different things, or making sure we're in a place where obviously bills are being paid, but not just getting by, but really thriving and being able to do nice things and put money away and live a great life. So what are things you looked at when you were planning?
Well, I think it's important to actually set goals and commitments of what you want to do financially. Most people in Vector, I think what they do is they wait until the end of the year and they see what's left over, and then that's what they invest in. Most of the time there's not a lot left over because you can always find things to spend your money on. So I think the way that you would look at your TPO or your number of recruits is the same thing you've got to do with your finances, where you got to say, okay, I'm committed to doing at least this much in saving this year, but my goal is to do this much and actually make a business. And, you know, from a profitability standpoint, you know, use 8%. 8% of your total CPO is probably going to be your profits for the year. That would be a safe number, I would guess. You know, if you're not a strong recruiter, maybe even 7%, and then figure out, you know, how to save that money. Don't wait till the end. Figure out how to systematize it so it's happening with like monthly debits. So it's just totally set up. So I've got to get running right now, Kathy. If there are additional questions, you guys can let me know. Hopefully this is helpful, at least thought-provoking, and take action. That's what I'm going to tell you. You're about to go into the new year, so take action now so it's a habit in 2017.
Awesome.
Pleasure to get time with all of you.